They kicked the kids out into one room, and it would be like Fight Club in my bedroom. I had a bunk bed, and on the top bunk is like where the spectators were. All the little cousins that were like, yeah, go, go. We kind of like divided the room. It was like red corner, blue corner, and the bigger cousins pit the little cousins against each other, and we fought for quarters. My daughter came in the bathroom. I heard the door open, and I'm like here, just like trying to like cover up my tears, and she like lifts up my chin, and she's like wiping away my tears. She's like 6 years old, and she's like, it's okay, Mom, you're strong. Once this heals, you'll be able to get back out there and keep going. When I was like crumbling, she was my rock.
Michelle Waterson Gomez, I'm gonna just say all three of your names. Actually, 5. Karate Hottie.
Thank you.
Welcome to Masters of Craft.
Thank you for having me.
We are live here at VeeCon, so we're on the go. Masters of Craft on the go. It's like you put in a little to-go bag.
Yeah.
And you can listen to it.
I like it.
Or in the car.
Yeah, it's good.
For starters, when you walk into a room and somebody doesn't know who you are, and they go, "What do you do?" What's your answer?
I usually tell them I punch people in the face. No, I do.
You just punch them in the face.
No,
That's what I do.
Yeah, I'm like, let me show you. It's easier to show you. No, I just tell them I'm a professional athlete.
And by professional athlete, what are we talking about?
So I fight professionally for an organization called the UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. And so as a professional athlete, I do MMA, mixed martial arts.
Nice. I'm going to go deep quickly.
All right, let's go.
If you don't mind.
Not at all.
What was the very first thing you remember having to fight for?
My voice. Yeah, for sure. I think that's why I became obsessed with martial arts. That's why martial arts gave me the career that I have today, because I remember being a tween and not having a voice and feeling like I was lost in the world, which all tweens feel. You know, it's like you're kind of trying to figure out who you are, you know, where you belong, you're growing, you're developing. And I was, a very submissive person. I wanted everybody to be happy. And so a lot of times I would turn the other cheek to make other people happy. A lot of times I would, swallow my pride and the things that I wanted to do to make the rest of the people happy. And it got to the point where I started losing confidence in myself and really just kind of fell into almost like a sadness. I wouldn't call it a depression, but just kind of like a sadness and a feeling of being alone.
You're also a middle child, and I'm also wondering, do you think the vocabulary is a generational thing, right? We both have kids, and I think the term depression and certain other mental discomforts, I don't want to discredit anybody's level of severity of experience, but our generation, it was just a different dialogue and acceptance and, willingness to speak about it. Well, how do you find a difference between you and your daughter and dealing with certain things?
I mean, it's kind of been a theme that I've been talking about all weekend. But I feel like you're talking about language with the younger generation, and for me, it's just an acceptance. And I'm not sure if it's just our generation or how I was raised or what I do for a living, but pain and struggle, adversity, challenge, all those things, being alone, those are all to me like stepping stones. Those are things that you have to pass through. And when I say you have to, it's because that's what builds your character. That's what makes you stronger. So just avoiding them and saying you don't like confrontation, or you don't want, you don't want to get into this conversation because you don't want to escalate, but whatever, it should be that way. Yeah. You need to have conversations that are tough. You need to put things in front of you that are hard. You need to feel pain in order to move on to the next level, in order to learn how to cope.
And obviously you've done that to an extreme, level, right? Yeah. You took that experience and turned it into a massive, massive career. And I don't think everybody is cut out for that, at least in the physical sense. Mm-hmm. There might be other senses, but I think at least when you have an aggressive physical outlet for whatever angst you're feeling, that's one thing. But for those who are maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial, or they're going in a different career lane, but they may have grown up what sorts of interactions have you had with fans or other people where they're going through something on their own, but they don't have the same outlet that you have?
that I would just say, because I fight, the outlet is physical, like exertion, right? Punching people but honestly, like that's not the satisfaction. Like the fight isn't the satisfaction. The satisfaction is the training, is the enduring the pain, and so pushing yourself, hitting a wall and pushing yourself past that wall. And so you don't have to be a fighter in order to feel those things. You can be an entrepreneur and hit a wall. You know, you can plateau with your numbers. That's hitting a wall. Okay, now you've hit the wall. What do you do once you hit that wall? You got to push past that wall. That's how you build strength. That's how you know, well, I like to tell people it's like when you break a bone, it breaks, but then what happens to that bone? It calluses over.
By the way, the whole table vibrated when she pushed her hand. So this is real. It was like, oh no.
Yeah, so it's like I've broken my hand 4 times, but now it's at the point where it's strong enough to withstand pretty much anything. You know, so it's like just because something breaks, something goes wrong, you fail, doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to break because you have to be able to fix it and to allow that bone or whatever it is that broke to callus over and to become stronger.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Where does doubt pop up in your world, right? Because I think breaking a hand 4 times, you know, 2 is enough probably. Like 1 is like, ouch. 2 is like, okay, come on. Right.
I was like, go.
Because that does become like, God, why? Like, even though you processed it later in hindsight as something positive, right? The callus, now I can do anything. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like, walk us through like getting through like the gritty part of the moment.
You know, it's funny because my daughter was still very young and it was summer break for her. So she was out of school. I was training literally 2 weeks away from my fight. I'd been out for a year and a half because I kept breaking my hand. And this is the last hard day of sparring. I felt pumped. I was ready. Weight was on point. I felt strong. And we were sparring and I just heard a pop and I felt this zing go all the way off my elbow and I already knew what it was. And I threw off my gloves and I looked down and there's this huge bump in my hand. And I was just like, I felt this huge lump coming up my throat and I wanted my daughter to see. So I ran out of the cage and I ran into the bathroom and I just started crying. And I was just like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Like, I just felt so defeated and weak at that point. Like, I felt like hopeless, you know?
Yeah.
And my daughter came in the bathroom. I heard the door open and I'm like here just like trying to like cover up my tears, and she like lifts up my chin and she's wiping away my tears. She's like 6 years old and she's like wiping away my tears and she's like, it's okay, Mom. She was like, you're strong, you know, once this heals you'll be able to get back out there and keep going. And she was like 6 years old and I was just like, my baby girl is here to like, she's like my rock in this moment. Like when I was like crumbling, she was my rock, you know. So it was just kind of like it took it full circle, and it just made me realize like the things that are important will always be there. You know, all these other things like the break and the disappointment of not being able to do what I wanted to do, those are just moments in time that will pass.
Also, the interesting thing about that is the one person you tried to avoid was the one person who became like the voice of it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, when you extend that into your coaching circles or your training circles, you know, how important is that to your craft? And like, what is the, I'm in the zone time? And then the, okay, I need input and support and love and hugs or whatever it might be from the people around me.
I think there's a lot of hats to put on as an MMA fighter. You know, my husband's in my corner, and so we've really had to juggle those different hats that we wear because, you know, at home he's my husband, but when he's in my corner, he's my coach, and I have to listen to him differently. And same with all my other coaches. And growing up in a military family with a martial arts background, it was heavily instilled into me to have like that pecking order, to have respect to your elders and to listen to everything they say and to follow instructions. And so I tried to carry that with me into my fight career. And I realized that I was taking instruction from all of these different people and trying to mimic exactly what they were telling me to do. But it was it was their style, their words, and I wasn't making it mine. And so I, at the end of the day, was the artist walking into the cage, creating my own piece of art on that canvas. And so I couldn't replicate what they were doing. I needed to take what they were telling me and break it down, take what I needed from whatever they were telling me and put it into my toolbox and make it something of my own.
I love that. Like, I think most of us, obviously myself included, you get so many inputs on a daily basis from so many people. Many of them you respect, some of them you don't respect, but they said something that was wise. And like, we are filtering through input all the time, no matter what level of expertise we've reached, or, you know, there's tons of decisions to make, and it just becomes taxing. Like, what is your, you know, gut versus intellect when you are like sifting through input? That could just be on the, you know, Michelle is the CEO of the Karate Hottie brand, you know, or like actually in the ring.
I say try to create order as much as possible in your routine so that when it is chaos, you have free range. And what I mean by that is like, if you have order in your routine and structure in the things that you do, it becomes muscle memory. So that when, you know, when shit hits the fan, when it's chaotic, your mind doesn't have to search for an answer. It's already going to be there. It becomes muscle memory. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it is at like, you know, your daily discipline. We were talking about meditating earlier, like just me getting into a space where I drop my energy, like my angsty energy down, and that becomes my baseline for the day. It may spike from there, but it's better than spiking from here.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the same thing applies whether you're in business or you're in a ring. Like whatever your baseline is, you can fluctuate from there, but you always come down to like your neutral zone.
Yeah.
Tell us about fighting for quarters.
It's just kind of one of those things, you know, when you have I just remember family gatherings, holidays, Christmas, you know, our parents were trying to enjoy the game and enjoy, you know, cook and stuff. And so they kicked the kids out into one room. And so it would be like Fight Club in my bedroom. And I had a bunk bed, and on the top bunk is like where the spectators were, like all the little cousins that were like, yeah, go. And then, so we kind of like divided the room. It was like red corner, blue corner, and the bigger cousins pit the little cousins against each other, and we fought for quarters. How
many quarters did you win? Who held the record?
Oh, I was pretty aggressive. You know, it's weird because I'm not an aggressive person in real life, but like when push comes to shove, I'm a fighter. Yeah, for sure.
Here's what, and I 100% agree after having known you for 2 days. No, like, you know, because we were in a session together and we did not know that was supposed to be the case. It was very last minute. And I was like, oh, who's this really nice person over here? And then you introduced yourself. And then there was one point where you gave me this glare into the ear. You just did it. I'm wondering, like, turning the switch on and off. Because, you know, you find like a lot of actors, for instance, who are method actors, and they get into a character, and that's it. Like, I'm in the zone, and I'm focused, and don't fuck with me. Or they're being that person, and then you got to go be mom. You got to go be healthy, but then you got to go beat somebody's ass. So, like, how do you turn that switch on and off? Like, what's that process like?
I think it's just having control of your mind. You're talking about meditation, and I think so many of us have a disconnect with the mind and the body. And if you have control over your mind, then you can decide when to turn it on and when not to. And that's kind of the addiction, the beauty of what I do is if you've ever been an athlete, and I wouldn't even necessarily say
if I've ever been an athlete. Come on, look at me. I did that sport once.
Well, then you know what I'm talking about when they call it like the zone, or it's a Zen flow, right? So when you like found that sweet spot, when everything slows down and it's kind of like the Matrix where you see everything coming and you're 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of your opponent and everything just like falls into place. That's when your mind and your body are completely aligned. And when you're in that space, you're not thinking, you're just doing, you're just being, right? But it's so hard to get to that space because there's so many other things that are happening. The person across from you is trying to take your hat off. You know, the lights are on. The crowd is cheering, take her hat off. You know, there are judges and your promoter is standing there telling you that you have to win. And so all these things come into play. So can you focus? Can you get in the zone in the moment is the most addicting thing that I've been searching for, because I've hit it, but it doesn't happen all the time. And so my journey is how can I hone that in? How can I find how to get in the zone every time?
I find like I find comfort in the fact that you experience that, because, you know, I think I struggle with the same thing. It's just like I have days where I'm on point, and I have other days where I'm like, I can't get a word out, or I can't get my thoughts straight, or I'm feeling sad about something I have no business feeling sad about, and I need to perform and do something else. You know, what area of your life do you find the most difficult in terms of control?
I think I would have to say my household. It's funny because I was just talking to Cesar Milan about this, because I have like such structure in my career and in being a mom, but like because I have businesses and restaurants and things that I'm invested in, and I put all my time into those things, and so when I come home I just want to relax, but my house is a mess because I have 10 different projects going on all at once, you know, and like in my mind it's organized clutter, you know. Because
like, you know where it is.
It's a hot mess, but I know where everything is in that hot mess. Yeah. You know, like don't touch it because then I won't remember where it's
you want to move this? No. Yep.
Don't move my hot mess, you know. So if I'm being completely honest, I would love to have a little bit more organization in my personal space.
Yeah.
A little bit more clarity.
You need some Marie Kondo in your life.
I do. I've read her book and she's really good.
I met her once.
Did you?
Yep. She told me I was a mess. I almost did it in an offensive accent, but you know, it's 2023 and you can't do it anymore.
So I can do it.
You can go ahead. Please just say
you a hot mess.
Thank you.
You a hot mess.
You can't cancel yourself. But that leads me to an interesting territory, right? Being the CEO of you and managing a fighting career, managing a fan base, like we had a really good conversation about yesterday, managing whatever the future of your existence is going to be, managing a 12-year-old. And like, as my therapist would tell me, there's a manager part of me that wants to take over and make sure everything's in neat and orderly, you know, orderly chaos. I'll call it that. But like, what's it like being CEO of you? How do you manage your day to day and focus your attention on the business, and then on the family, and then, you know, on your staff, like whatever it is that's in your world? Like, how is that organizational ability working?
I feel like for me, I'm kind of old school in the sense that I'm like a pen to paper type person, and it kind of helps me just get all the senses together. If I have a journal, and it's kind of like a journal / planner. And literally it has everything. So a year at a glance, and then the monthly breakdown, and then the weekly breakdown, and then the daily breakdown. And that really kind of helps me. And I kind of just do my planning week to week. And so this week, this is what I have. I jot down all the things that I have to do. And then whatever space is left is what I want to do. And that's what I tell my daughter all the time, because sometimes she stresses with her time management. And I ask her, did you do the things you had to do first, or the things you wanted to do first? Because now you're on a time crunch, and this is something that is due tomorrow. So you had to do that, you know? So just trying to explain those differences to her.
It's like that eat the frog metaphor, where it's like you give them a plate of food and there's like an ugly frog under the thing, and like most of us eat the one,
everything
eat that last. Right? So you eat everything else, and then you're like, now you fucked up your whole meal because you're like, you've been dreading this thing. And, but if you eat that first, get it out of the way. It's very gross. But and then you can enjoy the rest of the experience. I don't know. Like at that, one of the other things I was thinking about in terms of meals, this is a really cool segue. Is preparation. I was gonna have preparation H joke, but then I couldn't get.
I used to use preparation H when I did bikini contest because it sucks the water out. Yeah, did you know that you could put preparation H under your eyes because it takes the puffiness away?
That's not what I used it for. You don't want to go from the back to the eyes. That guy's eyes smell.
That's how you get pink eye.
That's how you get pink. Oh, man. How did this happen? No, like the idea of preparation, right? I think all of us, whether you're on an entrepreneurial journey or a creative one, like there is the act of preparation.
Right.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Like, what is your philosophy on preparation, Jenna?
To make it a lifestyle. And, you were talking about your martial arts background, but the big thing about martial arts is a lot of martial artists, they don't look at it as a sport or as a hobby. They look at it as a way of life, the person you are, the character that you exude, So if you are an entrepreneur, it is not just something that you do as your career. It is a way of life. And so many people are envious of entrepreneurs because, they own their own business, this or that, and they get to create their own hours. The truth is, as an entrepreneur, you don't have hours. It's 24/7. And if you're okay with that and you can manage your time that way and that drives you and that fuels you, then you can be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing is it's about acceptance, right? I think most of us deny the circumstances. Look, I can do this and that. Right. Or, a friend of mine once said, there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's life. And I think if you can just kind of lump it all into one bucket, like I have 2 kids and like I'm flying back early so I can make sure I get to I'm on a 6 a.m. flight and I'm pretty sure it's going to be late night. But it's like, he's going to be in a play and he's going to chip and Beauty and the Beast. And I'm like, all right, how can I miss that? And as much as I want to stay and go see, have some Indianapolis cocktail sauce from the shrimp cocktail, that's the thing. It's like, there is no preparation. It's just like, oh, I almost forgot about it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, just kind of like going with the flow. And then I guess from there, like, what is flow? What does flow feel like for you?
Like when you're in the zone?
I think in this area of acceptance, right? Where, something goes, the flat tire happens or whatever, even though you're on your way to a thing and other things are getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. So flow for me is, not overemphasizing the issue, right? The overcomplicating what it is that is stopping you on your flow. And it's so how I explain it to people in a way that I've learned it through fighting is positions. So, and hopefully you understand where I'm going with this, but in fighting, you are taught like good positions and bad positions, dominant position, like offensive and defensive positions. But Coach Jackson, he's phenomenal with trying to make things into concepts. And he would tell us every position is just that. It's just a position. And so if you look at it as a bad position, it will be a bad position. Mm. But you can look at being on your back as a bad position, because it is to some of the judges, but you can also look at it as an advantageous position where you can pop off submissions. You can throw elbows from the bottom. You can finish a fight from the bottom. And in that instance, it becomes not a defensive position, but an offensive position. So anything that's coming to in your life, instead of like, when you fight somebody and you hit the ground and you feel their body deflate, mm-hmm. It's like a shark smelling blood in the water. You know what I mean? And so when you're in a position as an entrepreneur and you hit the ground, something happens, somebody drops the ball, and you feel that energy deflate, it's like a shark smelling blood in the water. And so it's like, don't allow yourself to deflate. Just be like, okay, we're in this position. How do we bounce from this position? How do we attack from this position? And that's how you flow. That's how you ride the wave.
We just had this conversation earlier. Hi, Caleb. About something that wasn't working out. We're like, all right, well, let's see what the next fix is. Like, if it's salvageable, great. If not, okay. But it's always finding that path forward. I think from an innovation perspective, which is a lot of a part of my career, it's finding a way to make the thing and finding a way to make the idea happen. Like your path that you go this way is going to be blocked off. Okay, cool. Let's try the side door. Oh, the side door is locked. Let's try the back door. Oh, you got a ladder. Let's go up in the window. Like I refer to it as relentless optimism.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's a requirement in any endeavor, not just some like innovation or like some high level fighting experience. What was your foundational martial arts craft? What did you start off with?
So I started in American freestyle karate, and that's how I got the name, the Karate Hottie. I mean, that's not how I got the name. I got the name later on in life when I was in college. Did I tell you the story?
No, now you're about to. Here we go. Here we go.
So as a college student, I had to find a job that gave me flexible hours and that would pay me enough money to pay my bills in school. So I worked at Hooters. I was a Hooters waitress. And as a Hooters waitress, are you going to say?
Get a time machine. You saw my brain was like, oh. But the best I could come up with time machine. So, sorry, guys.
I was a Hooters waitress, which, I never in a million years said I could be because I don't have any Hooters. But anyways, that's besides the point. I did a lot of cool stuff.
Okay.
I did a lot of cool stuff. I shot for the Hooters calendar, the magazine. We went on trips across the world. So I think it was like in the Caribbean shooting the calendar. And I met this guy named Howie who owned a company called Bikini.com. And he basically featured women.
I met Howie.
Have you really?
Years ago. I heard that name and oh my gosh. Okay, continue.
Small world.
Yes, very small. That's really funny.
Okay, so Bikini.com, he found out that I did martial arts and he's like, I'd love to feature you on my website. And then he was like, we could call you the Karate Hottie. It'd be really cool. We talk about your martial arts background and I'll pay you this much. I said, cool, let's do it. Whatever. We shot the thing. It was cool. I didn't think anything of it. 6 months down the road, I'm taking my first professional fight, and the promoter's like, you have a fight name? And I said, no. So he goes, Michelle Waterson on the web, and bloop, Karate Hottie, and it stuck.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, it's also, like, I don't know, like, I love that it was birthed and, like, you were just being you.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty awesome. All right, so American Freestyle Karate, when did you know you were on to something? Because I think every kid has done some form of martial arts. And like, I was on my Michigan State karate team, tongue suit up. It's my foundational stuff. But like, when did you know you're like, oh, I'm actually good at this? Was that early days with the family? Was that like, you started winning things? Like what was that?
As soon as I got into martial arts and I said like trying to find my voice, martial arts is what gave me that voice, is because it gave me the confidence to kind of, walk in my own shoes and be okay with who I was. And so honestly, I think that's when I knew that martial arts was going to be a part of my life forever. And yeah, I was good. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with being as perfect as I could be in my katas and stuff like that. And I loved the art of martial arts. And I was really good with that. I didn't know that I was a fighter because I didn't even want to compete sparring because I didn't want to get hit. But there was something in the back of my mind telling me, like, you should probably, if you're doing martial arts, it is a combat sport, or it's martial arts, and you should probably be able to defend yourself.
Yeah, it's not meant to just be pretty.
Yeah,
right?
so it was always in the back of my mind. Could you defend yourself if you really had to? If you were in a dark alley and somebody pushed you up again, could you defend yourself? It was always in the back of my mind, and so I think that was always in the back of my mind. But when I knew that I was a fighter, was in a tournament, and it was, I was still young at this point, but I was always in point sparring. You don't go in weight classes. You go according to your age and according to your belt level. Right? And so according to my age and my belt level, I fought gigantic Amazonian women, because I climbed up the ranks really fast. So I became a black belt really quickly, but I'm small, like pretty petite. And so I remember point sparring this girl, and point sparring is supposed to be controlled, but she blasted me into the judges' table, and I went tumbling back, and my nose was bleeding, and everybody was like, oh. And I just remember looking down and like wiping the blood from my nose and looking and being like, fire in my soul, in my heart. And I wasn't scared. I wasn't sad. I wasn't hurt. I was furious. And I wanted to get back in there and get my vengeance, you know? And that's when I knew I was a fighter, you know, because in that moment, I didn't want to fly away. I didn't freeze. I wanted to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Where else does that fire show up? Because I think, I don't know. There's a picture on your Instagram of you delivering a pretty gruesome front kick to somebody, and they're like, it looked like it's a Sparta, like lifting Sparta kind of thing. And I told you a story about how I got kicked like that once, and it was point fighting, and it was like a long time to bow out. It was the end of the match. We were 2-2. That was his third shot, and then I walked off. It was like 30 seconds later. It's go, oh, like I kept it all in until I got out of the ring. I don't think I didn't have the same reaction you did. It didn't like fire me up. I was like, I'm glad this is over. I'll be ready for the next one.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like it didn't turn me into Hulk mode. But I think about like where that energy shows up, you know, in other areas of my life where I'm like, oh, that happened? Okay, watch now. This. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, where else does that happen for you? Does it happen in like areas of doubt? When people say, oh, you're the karate person, you don't know anything about restaurants. Like, you know, like where else is that happen for you?
I would say everywhere in life. You know, I definitely am fueled by people that doubt. You know, I grew up with a very, like in the Asian culture, it's very judgmental, you know. And my mom was always like, oh, you got the A? How come you not get the A plus? You know, and it was always like, you know, Pamela, she got a brand new car. Where's your brand new car? So it was always like comparing, and it was just like, it was funny because me and my sister are completely opposite. For me, it was like, okay, I'm going to show her. I'm going to show my mom that I can, you know, get the A plus, that I can do this. But for my sister's like, well, if you think I'm a loser, then I'm just going to go get into trouble and show you that I'm a loser, you know?
Shout out to your losers.
No. Not that she's a loser, because my sister is like, if I tell you her story, she's like my inspiration. But not that she's a loser, but my mom tried to steer her away from, you know, the baby kids, the bad kids. And she ended up hanging out with them anyways, you know. So, and it's because it was out of spite. Yeah. You know, so we're all different, you know. And so, but for me, like, that fuels me when somebody doubts me, when somebody says, well, you can't do that, or, you know, or maybe you should try something. Maybe I should try something else. Why? You don't think I could do it? All right. Now I'm doing it. Yeah. You know, so.
Speaking of your mom,
yes,
she gave you the Buddha to protect the Buddha.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
She's my mom. You know, she, since I started fighting, has been my biggest supporter, and loves fighting. She's my biggest fan, and she just always wants to protect me. So this is something that I wear to all my fights, and it is basically the guy that protects all the Buddhas and transports him. So it's like the Buddha's security guard right here. So I gotta protect him too.
That's so awesome. A couple more things before we wind up. We had a little conversation about the pandemic and what fighting during the pandemic was like. And the idea of worth came up, right? The feeling of worth. Tell us about what that was like and how it made you feel and how you got over it.
Well, you know, COVID, I think, was a real shifty time for everybody. And it was kind of one of those times in all of our lives where we had to pivot and figure out a way to move. And I'm actually eternally grateful for the UFC because it was an organization that continued to push forward even through all the uncertainty. But there were a lot of things that we had to do through the uncertainty in order to even make it happen. So there were all these rules put into place because we had to socially distance, which was really hilarious because we would have to, in the back we could train, and we're like rolling around, wrestling, punching each other in the face. But then when we go out to fight, my corner had to put masks on, and it was just really funny to me because just couple of seconds ago we did not have masks. That's another story. But anyways, we had to pack up all of our stuff right before we walked out to the arena. And when we're done fighting, we would come back and not even, have the opportunity to shower or anything like that. Our bags are waiting for us to be shuttled back to the hotel. And it just felt like kind of like very dismissive to like, okay, you did your work and now we don't need you anymore. I think. And that's all. And I could go. So that's how I initially felt. But how I've overcome that, I think, is that all of those things are out of my control. All of those things that everybody does, everybody says, everybody thinks, is outside of my control. What is inside of my control is how I react to it, how I let it affect me, and having a real understanding of my self-worth and the people that are in my corner forever and always, regardless of the outcome, regardless if I'm fighting or not, is what really kept me grounded.
I love that. The show is called Masters of Craft. But ironically, I think mastery is sort of an illusion. Like, there is no master. You just keep leveling up. What is one thing in your life you're still trying to master?
Everything. Life. It is, right, but you're right. It is. I think that's the beauty of becoming a master of anything, is when you become a master, you realize that you're forever a student. And that there's always more to learn, and especially with this ever-expanding technology and how fast technology is growing, it's even that much more necessary to continue to learn, because the evolution of life is happening right under our feet. And especially in the world of MMA, MMA is still a very young sport, but it's evolving so fast. And these young cats coming in that are getting signed to the UFC, they don't have a specialty. Their specialty is MMA, because they grew up watching people like me, and they're taking the mistakes that I've made and they're polishing up those mistakes and coming in, with a blended array of tools to combat, So you have to stay evolved.
I avoid street fights at all costs. Like, you just never know. Like you said, like these cats, you're like, I don't know what that move is, and they're making monkey noises. I was creative where I got it, the details of where I got into the altercation. As you mentioned, like sort of
that. Did it scare you off when he started making monkey noises?
I was like, hey, this is awesome. It's okay, man. You can have a parking spot. Like, I'll park over there. No, like you talk about this future generation coming up, and then also like there's a lot of words to be said about athletes who post career don't know what's next, or haven't prepared for what's next, or to prepare to not be in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, what foundations have you laid for the next iteration, Michelle?
It's a real thing. It's just like when a veteran comes out of being in the military. It is their entire life what they do. As an athlete, as a professional athlete, an NFL, baseball, whatever, you've been trained to do this one singular craft since they were probably like, toddlers. And then you get chewed up and spit out into the real world, and now your singular craft that you're a master at has no bearing in the real world. Or at least that's what we all think. But it does. Like, there's so much that you learn through sports as a professional athlete. And there's so much that I've learned as a fighter that I can apply to being a businesswoman, to being an entrepreneur, to being an actress, to speaking. But you just have to know how to apply it and just kind of look at the perspective like, okay, in a fight, I would do this. So how would I attack this business the way I would attack my fight, And so whatever it is that you're doing, understanding the shift, but also like planting the seeds, I think is very important. Like, I'm still fighting. I would say in my prime, luckily that I'm still young, I'm still healthy and still have the opportunity to fight. But along the way, like as I'm focused in my fight career, I'm planting seeds. I'm planting seeds and I'm making sure as I'm crossing this path that I'm watering it along the way. I might not be watering it as much as I'm watering my fight career, but it's still getting water, So hopefully by the time my fight career is over, those seeds have sprouted, and then I can start working on those.
Well, Michelle, you've come a long way since Hooters. And all the way to Masters of Craft. Everything led up to this moment. So I thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me. Bam.
I don't want to break your hand again. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to another installment of Masters of Craft. Hi, Caleb.
Hi.
Okay. He's also a martial artist, too.
Yes, I know. This is great.
He's almost better than me. No, thank you. And where do people follow you? How do we get you on socials, and how can we support?
I am most active on my Instagram, which is Karate Hottie MMA. I'm really trying hard to build my TikTok. Same thing across the board. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Look up Karate Hottie and you'll find me.